She calls that freedom? Fine. I'll show you what respect looks like.
So this happened about a year ago, but I'm finally ready to share what went down. I'm a 35 million, was married to my ex-wife Sarah, 33-year-old female, for 10 years before everything imploded. The way our marriage ended still blows my mind when I think about it. It started on a random Tuesday evening 3 weeks before our anniversary. We were sitting at our kitchen table eating reheated Chinese takeout when Sarah casually informed me that our 10th wedding anniversary would need to be moved. Not asked about, not suggested, informed, like she was telling me about a dentist appointment getting rescheduled. I had been planning this anniversary since January, the restaurant reservation I'd made 6 months ago at the Pinnacle Room in downtown Portland, one of the hardest reservations to get in the entire city. The weekend getaway to the coast I'd booked back in winter, including the hotel room with the ocean view she'd always wanted. The concert tickets to see her favorite band that I'd purchased the literal moment they went on sale. All of it needed to be rescheduled, because her wine club friends had planned a tour through wine country for that exact same weekend. The girls already put deposits down, Sarah said, twirling noodles around her fork like this was the most reasonable thing in the world. We can celebrate our anniversary the next weekend. It's just a date on a calendar, right? I set down my chopsticks carefully, buying myself a moment to process what I'd just heard. It's our 10th anniversary, Sarah. And we'll have many more, she said, not even looking up from her phone, which had just buzzed with what I assumed was a message from her wine club group chat. One weekend won't matter in the grand scheme of things. I looked at her across our kitchen table. Really looked at her. The woman sitting across from me, scrolling through her phone while dismissing a decade of marriage, wasn't the woman I'd married 10 years ago. That woman would have been excited about celebrating our milestone. That woman would have appreciated the months of effort I'd put into planning something special for us. That woman would never have chosen wine tasting with women she'd known for 2 months over celebrating 10 years with her husband. You're right, I said finally, my voice calmer than I felt inside. One weekend won't matter at all. She paused mid-scroll, her eyes flicking up to meet mine. She was searching my face for the argument she'd clearly expected, probably even prepared her counter-arguments for. When she didn't find any resistance, when she saw nothing but calm agreement, relief washed over her features like a wave. I knew you'd understand, she said, smiling now. She leaned across the table and kissed my cheek, already turning back to her phone before her lips had fully left my skin. Her thumbs started flying across the screen, typing what I could only assume was the good news to her friends. I watched her smile at their responses, watched the little burst of validation she got from each incoming message. The phone buzzed 4 times in rapid succession. Her smile grew wider with each buzz. What Sarah didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know, as she sat there texting her wine club about her understanding husband, was that I'd already started making some calculations of my own. And unlike her, I'd been planning further ahead than just the next weekend. This whole situation had started about 3 months earlier, when Sarah joined something called the Wine Wednesday Club through a neighborhood Facebook group. At first, it seemed harmless enough. Monthly wine tastings at a local restaurant, learning about different grape varieties, meeting some neighbors. I'd actually encouraged it. Sarah had been saying for months that she needed more friends, more activities outside of work and our home life. But what began as monthly wine tastings had evolved into something else entirely. Something I couldn't quite put my finger on at first, but that set off alarm bells in the back of my mind. Weekend trips started appearing on the calendar without much discussion. Late-night outings became routine. Girls' nights that used to end at 9:30 now stretched past midnight regularly. And somewhere in that transformation, I'd started living with a completely different version of my wife. The group's leader was a woman named Diana, late 30s, divorced twice, according to what Sarah told me, though Diana apparently called them escapes from toxic situations rather than divorces. She had this way of talking that made everything sound enlightened and empowering, even when she was encouraging married women to act like they were single. From what I could tell from Sarah's stories, Diana seemed to collect married women as disciples, pulling them into her orbit with talk of independence and self-discovery and living authentically. Then there was Jessica, who Sarah mentioned had been seeing a coworker. When I'd asked if the guy was single, Sarah had gotten defensive and said it wasn't her place to judge other people's relationships. That should have been my first real red flag right there. My wife, who used to have strong opinions about right and wrong, about fidelity and commitment, suddenly refusing to judge a woman having an affair. Brittany was another member, currently engaged for the third time according to the stories I'd overheard. The common thread in all her failed relationships seemed to be that the men couldn't handle her independence. At least, that's how she told it. I suspected there might be another side to those stories that made considerably more sense. And then there was Rachel, whose husband was deployed overseas with the military. Sarah had mentioned how lonely Rachel was, how hard it must be to be apart from her spouse for so long. What Sarah seemed to gloss over was that Rachel spent most of her lonely nights at bars and clubs, posting photos and revealing outfits, collecting attention from men who definitely weren't deployed anywhere. These were the women giving my wife life advice. These were the people she was choosing to spend her time with, to listen to emulate. The warning signs had been building for weeks, each one small enough to dismiss on its own, but together forming a pattern I couldn't ignore anymore. Sarah started coming home at 11 on what were supposed to be weeknight tastings. When I'd mentioned that 11 seemed quite late for a tasting that started at 7, she'd get irritated and say I was tracking her movements like she was a teenager. Her vocabulary changed too. Suddenly everything was about wine o'clock and self-care and living her truth. She started taking phone calls outside, even in cold weather, saying the house was too loud even when I was sitting quietly reading. Phone privacy became paramount in a way it never had been before. She changed her passcode, something we'd never felt the need to do in 9 years of marriage. When her phone was face up on the counter and a notification came through, she'd flip it over quickly, sometimes mid-conversation with me. The financial changes were harder to ignore. When I questioned a single charge of $800 for 1 month of wine club activities, she'd gotten more defensive than I'd ever seen her. "I'm investing in friendships," she'd said, her voice taking on that new edge it had developed recently. "Women need community. Why is that so hard for you to understand?" Community that costs $800 a month, Sarah. That's not normal social spending. You spend money on your hobbies. Why can't I spend money on mine? My hobbies don't require lying about where I am until midnight. The words came out sharper than I'd intended, but I was tired of the circular conversations we kept having. I'm not lying. I'm just not reporting to you like a child. I'm an adult woman who doesn't need permission to have a social life. That phrase, like a child, stuck with me. It was new. That wasn't Sarah's normal way of speaking. That sounded like something someone had told her to say. That sounded like Diana. "I never said you needed permission," I'd replied, keeping my voice level. "I asked where you were because I care. That used to be called partnership." She'd rolled her eyes at that. Actually rolled her eyes. And then she'd walked away, ending the conversation by simply refusing to participate anymore. That's when I'd started paying closer attention, really paying attention to everything. Her phone lit up constantly with group chat messages, the screen glowing on the nightstand at all hours. One night, she'd left it unlocked while she went to take a shower. I'm not proud of looking, but I'm not sorry I did either. The message on her screen was from Diana. "Did he give you grief? Men hate when we have our own lives. Stay strong, sister." The next afternoon, I'd taken the liberty of looking through her tablet when she'd left it open on the coffee table. She thought I was in my home office on a conference call. I wasn't. The Wine Wednesday private Facebook group was still logged in. I spent an hour scrolling through 2 months of posts, and what I found made my blood run cold. Diana's posts read like a handbook for destroying marriages. Train your husband to respect boundaries. If he questions where you are, that's controlling behavior, not concern. Your independence is non-negotiable. The other women would share their stories, and Diana would dissect each husband's behavior like a prosecutor building a case. Jessica bragging about her secret affairs, calling it taking back her power. Screenshots of text conversations with a married man, complete with laughing emoji reactions from the group. "He makes me feel alive again," she'd written. "My boyfriend just doesn't get me anymore." Someone pointed out that the man was married. Jessica's response? "His marriage isn't my responsibility." Brittany complaining about all 3 of her ex-fiancés in detailed posts. though reading between the lines made it crystal clear why they'd all left. One had apparently couldn't handle her close friendship with her male coworker. Another got insecure when she wanted to travel alone with male friends. The third tried to control her finances when she was racking up credit card debt. Each story sounded more like a man who'd finally had enough of being disrespected. Rachel, posting revealing photos at 2 in the morning, while her husband was literally in a combat zone. Comments from the group cheering her on. You deserve to feel beautiful. Don't let deployment dim your light. Living your best life. One photo showed her dancing with a man at a bar, his hands on her waist. The caption read, "Lonely night? Not anymore." But what really caught my attention, what made me screenshot everything, was the post from a week before our anniversary conversation even happened. Diana had written, "Any of you ladies have anniversaries or birthdays coming up? Planning something epic for that weekend in wine country. Girl time over obligation time. Who's with me?" 5 women had commented interest. Sarah was third. Her comment, "Count me in. My 10th anniversary is that weekend. But this sounds way more fun. He'll understand. My 10th anniversary. Something I'd been planning for since January. Something that should have mattered. Dismissed as less fun than drinking wine with women she'd known for 8 weeks. I screenshot everything. Every post, every comment, every piece of evidence that showed exactly how this group operated and what they were doing to my marriage. When Sarah brought up rescheduling more directly a week later, I was ready. We were sitting in the living room when she finally worked up to it. "So I need to talk about our anniversary." "I'm listening." "The wine club planned this amazing tour, and it happens to be the same weekend as our 10th anniversary." She blinked. "You knew." "I'm observant." "So you want to cancel our plans?" "Not cancel, reschedule. We can go the next weekend. The reservation took 6 months to get. Then we'll go somewhere else. It's not about the place. What's it about then? It's about you being flexible. It's about supporting what makes me happy." I nodded slowly. "You're right. Your happiness matters. I want you to do exactly what makes you happy. Don't hold back." She stared at me. "Really? You're okay with it?" "I want you to do exactly what makes you happy. Don't hold back." "Thank you for understanding. I promise we'll make it up next weekend. I'm sure it'll be memorable." The next day, Monday morning, I called Mitchell and Partners in downtown. The receptionist put me through to James Miller after I explained I needed to discuss divorce proceedings. "How soon can you see me?" I asked. "We have an opening Thursday, or I could fit you in Friday afternoon." "Friday," I said. "Our anniversary. My wife is choosing to spend our 10th anniversary with her friends instead of me. I'd like to spend it with my attorney instead." There was a brief pause on the other end of the line. "Friday at 3 p.m., James said. "Bring any documentation you have." By Tuesday, I'd opened a personal checking account at a different bank across town, one Sarah had never been to. I transferred exactly half of our joint savings account, $43,000. I made sure everything was documented, every transfer above board and legal. I even had my accountant review the transactions. "You're within your rights," he confirmed. "Washington is a community property state. 50-50 split is standard. You're just doing it proactively." "Will it look bad to a judge?" I asked. "Protecting your assets before filing?" "Not even slightly. Happens all the time. You're not hiding money. You're not draining accounts. You're separating what's legally yours." Wednesday, I contacted a realtor friend to assess our house value. She asked why I needed the estimate. "Divorce," I said simply. "I'm sorry," she replied, and she sounded like she meant it. "Don't be. I'm not." I began documenting every asset we owned. Photographed jewelry, collectibles, furniture, electronics. Created a detailed spreadsheet of everything we'd purchased during our marriage. Date of purchase, original cost, current estimated value. The attorney would need this. I needed this. Thursday evening, Sarah was buzzing around the house like a teenager before prom. She'd been shopping, bought new clothes specifically for the wine tour. New luggage sat by the door, already partially packed. She'd gotten her nails done during her lunch break. She showed me the itinerary for the weekend, scrolling through her phone with barely contained excitement. Friday night, we check into Willow Creek Resort. Saturday, we hit 3 wineries. The big famous one first, then 2 smaller ones. Fancy dinner Saturday night at this farm-to-table place. Sunday brunch and spa treatments before we head home. Sounds expensive, I observed. $850 per person, she said. And I noticed she said it with only a hint of apology. A few months ago, she would have been mortified at spending that much on a weekend without me. Now it was just a fact she was stating. But we all agreed we deserved it. We? Them. The wine club. Her real priorities. Sounds like you'll have an unforgettable weekend, I said, and I meant every word. I really will. She smiled at me, that same smile I'd fallen in love with a decade ago. Except now, it was being directed at the thought of leaving me behind. And you'll be okay here? I know it's our anniversary, but we'll make it up next weekend, I promise. I'll be more than okay. Something in my tone made her pause. She studied my face for a long moment. You're really not mad? Why would I be mad? You're doing exactly what you want. She seemed satisfied with that answer. Or maybe she just wanted to be satisfied with it. Either way, she went back to packing, humming to herself. Friday morning arrived, our actual anniversary. 10 years to the day since we'd stood in front of our families and friends and promised forever. Sarah packed while I watched from the bedroom doorway, memorizing this moment. The last time she'd pack in this house as my wife. She kept glancing at me in the mirror, catching my reflection. You sure you're not upset? Why would I be? You're doing what you want. When I get back, we'll plan something really special. Something will definitely be special. At 2 in the afternoon, Diana pulled up in a rented luxury SUV. The other 3 women were already inside, laughing and singing along to music. Sarah kissed me at the door. Love you. See you Sunday night. Have the time of your life. Diana leaned out the window. Don't worry, we'll take good care of her. I waved. I'm counting on it. I watched the SUV disappear around the corner, then checked my watch. Attorney appointment in 90 minutes. James Miller's office had a view of the river. He reviewed my documentation with an impressed expression. This is extraordinarily well organized, he said, flipping through the folder. I showed him the Facebook screenshots, the timeline of behavior changes, Sarah's own comment about her 10th anniversary being less important than wine tasting. Her own social media establishes a pattern, James observed. She publicly chose friends over a significant marital milestone. In Washington's no-fault divorce system, this kind of documentation supports your case substantially. We discussed the process, the timeline, the costs. For an uncontested divorce, he estimated $5,000 to $8,000. If she contests, it could be more, he warned. She won't contest, I said. She'll be too busy explaining to everyone what happened. The papers were prepared for Monday filing. I signed the preliminary documents. Are you certain about the timing? James asked again. This is your anniversary. She made it clear this date doesn't matter to her anymore. I'm just agreeing. I left his office at 5:30 and drove home to our empty house. It felt different already. Peaceful. At 6:47, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Just checked into the hotel. This place is gorgeous. 7:23 brought an Instagram story. 4 women with wine glasses at the hotel bar. The caption read, Anniversary weekend? More like girlfriend-versary weekend. I screenshotted and forwarded it to James. Then I started packing Sarah's belongings into boxes in the garage. At 9:15, another text arrived. Diana just ordered us all champagne. Having so much fun already. I responded, enjoy every moment. 10:30 brought another Instagram story. The 4 of them at the hotel restaurant bar, clearly drunk. Diana's arm was around Sarah. The caption said, to new traditions and leaving old obligations behind. I took our wedding photo off the mantel and packed it away. Then I removed my wedding ring and placed it in an envelope with a note. You won't need this anymore. Saturday morning started with social media updates. 11 a.m. brought a group photo from the first winery. All 4 women wore matching Wine Wednesday t-shirts. Sarah's Instagram story caption read, 10 years married and finally doing what I want. Diana commented, about time, girl. Jessica added, living your best life. Brittany chimed in, this is what freedom looks like. I continued packing while they posted. called a moving company, and reserved a storage unit. By afternoon, I'd organized everything into clear categories of hers, mine, and shared. 2:30 brought a video. Sarah dancing with a wine glass, obviously intoxicated. Diana was filming. "Tell everyone what you're celebrating." Sarah's voice slurred and happy. "Freedom! I'm celebrating freedom from expectations." The other women cheered in the background. I downloaded the video and sent it to James with a note. Additional evidence. Then I removed Sarah's name from our joint credit cards, changed all our streaming service passwords, and updated my emergency contacts at the bank. At 5 p.m., a photo appeared of Sarah at the third winery. Her left hand was clearly visible in the shot, raised with a wine glass. Her wedding ring was gone. The caption, "Left the ball and chain at home, LOL JK, or am I?" 147 likes, 23 comments. Her aunt commented, "Where's your ring, honey?" Sarah replied, "Taking a break from expectations." I sent the screenshot to James and texted my brother. "Guest room still available?" "Always," he replied. "You doing okay?" "Better than I've been in months." Saturday evening brought photos from their fancy dinner. The 4 women dressed up, multiple wine bottles visible on the table. Sarah's post, "Best anniversary dinner ever. Who says you need a husband to celebrate love? These queens are all I need." Diana commented, "Screenshot this energy. This is growth." At 8:30, my phone rang. Sarah's name on the screen. I answered. "Hey." Her voice was thick with alcohol. "Just wanted to check in. Having fun?" "So much fun. You should see this place. Maybe next year we can come here for our anniversary." "Maybe. You're not mad, right? You sound weird." "I'm not mad. I'm clear." "Clear about what?" "About what I need to do. Enjoy your dinner. Love you. Goodbye, Sarah." I hung up before she could process the finality in that word. 9:15 brought another Instagram story. The women were at the hotel bar again. Men were visible in the background. Diana was recording. "Guess what, ladies? The universe provides." The camera panned to show 3 men joining their table. Sarah was giggling, accepting a drink from one. 11:30 brought the final post of the night. A photo of Sarah with one of the men, his arm around her shoulders. She was leaning into him, wine glass in her other hand. Sometimes the best nights are the unexpected ones. I shut off my phone, loaded the last box into my truck, and left our house key on the kitchen counter. On the table, I placed a letter I'd written, my wedding ring beside it, and copies of all my documentation in a manila folder. The note on top read, "Read everything. Then call your attorney. You'll need one." I closed the door behind me and drove to my brother's house. Sunday morning, I kept my phone off. Sarah would be driving home, probably hungover, possibly still happy about her weekend of freedom. I imagined her pulling into our driveway, noticing my truck missing, using her key on the unlocked door. I could picture her calling out, walking into the kitchen, seeing the letter on the table, the ring, the keys, her hands shaking as she opened the envelope. My brother and I were having coffee when I finally turned my phone back on. 35 missed calls from Sarah. The voicemails progressed from confused to angry to desperate. The last one was just sobbing, barely coherent. Text messages filled my screen. "This is insane. You can't be serious. Call me right now. We need to talk about this. You're overreacting. It was just a weekend with friends. Please answer me. I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. Don't do this. Please. I love you. Answer your phone." At 1:15, she called my brother. He answered on speakerphone. "Where is he? I need to talk to him." "He doesn't want to talk to you. This is crazy. It was just a girls' weekend. On your 10th anniversary? Without your wedding ring? With your arm around another man? How did he see that? That was innocent. We were just having fun. Maybe you should have had fun with your husband. Please, just let me talk to him." "He's done talking. You'll hear from his attorney tomorrow." My brother hung up. 30 minutes later, my phone showed an incoming call from Diana. I didn't answer. Then Jessica, then Brittany. I blocked all of them. The Wine Wednesday group chat told a different story. I could see it through Sarah's iPad, which was still linked to her accounts. Sarah had written, "I need help. My husband filed for divorce. Jessica. What? Why? Sarah. Because of this weekend. Brittany. That's psychotic. Rachel. He can't divorce you for taking a trip. Sarah. He has screenshots of everything we posted. Long pause in the chat. Diana. Girls, maybe we should take this offline. Sarah. Diana, you said this was normal. You said I deserved this. Diana. I didn't tell you to take off your ring. Sarah. You said to leave obligations behind. You literally toasted to it. Did something happen with that guy at the bar? Sarah. No, but there are photos. Brittany. Listen, Sarah, this is your marriage. We can't be responsible for your choices. Sarah. But you all encouraged me. Rachel. We encouraged you to have fun, not blow up your life. Then, one by one, they left the conversation. Diana first, then Jessica, then Brittany, then Rachel. Sarah was alone in the group chat she'd valued over her marriage. Monday morning at 9 a.m., a process server arrived at our house. Sarah answered in her bathrobe. She'd clearly been awake all night. Sarah Martinez? Yes, you've been served. She opened the envelope with shaking hands. Official divorce filing. Court date 60 days out. Irreconcilable differences. Abandonment of marital obligations. Her own Instagram posts were attached as exhibits. She called 3 law firms. All quoted a $5,000 retainer minimum. One attorney asked, "Were you represented in these social media posts accurately?" "Yes, but I didn't mean it like that. Intention doesn't matter. Documentation does." She couldn't afford any of them. Her call to her parents didn't go the way she expected. "You did what on your anniversary?" her mother asked. Her father was more direct. "Let me get this straight. He made plans 6 months in advance and you canceled for wine tasting?" "It was more than that." "Was it? Because it sounds like you chose your friends over your husband and posted about it publicly." Within a week, the Wine Wednesday group was imploding. Jessica's affair was exposed when her coworker's wife found their messages. She was fired. Rachel's husband returned early from deployment, saw her Instagram posts, and filed for separation. The military community canceled her completely. Diana's married boyfriend's wife found their text messages. Diana was facing her 3rd divorce as a result, except this time, she was the other woman. Brittany announced her 4th engagement. The comment section was brutal. 2 weeks after I filed, we met for the first mediation at James's office. Sarah arrived with a court-appointed attorney. She'd qualified for legal aid. She looked terrible. Lost weight, dark circles under her eyes, couldn't meet my gaze. Her attorney reviewed the settlement proposal. "This is fair. More than fair. You're lucky," her attorney told her quietly. With the evidence, he could have pushed for more. I spoke for the first time since she'd entered the room. "I don't want to destroy you. I just want to be free of someone who didn't value what we had." Sarah started crying. I know I destroyed it." "Yes, you did." "Can I just explain?" "No, there's nothing to explain. You made your choices clear, posted them for everyone to see. It was a mistake. It was a choice. Multiple choices over several weeks. The settlement was straightforward. House sold, proceeds split 50-50. Savings already divided. She kept her car, no alimony. Each kept their own retirement accounts. Fair division of furniture and household items. She signed with a trembling hand, tears dropping onto the paper. "I'm so sorry." "I know you are now." 6 weeks later, we stood in King County Family Court. The judge reviewed our uncontested divorce. "Any last statements?" Sarah shook her head. I remained silent. Divorce is granted. Marriage dissolved. The gavel sounded. 10 years over in 3 minutes. In the parking lot, Sarah caught up to me. "Can we talk? Please?" "We have nothing left to talk about. I need you to know they're all gone. The friends. Diana won't return my calls. I'm completely alone." "You chose to be." "I didn't choose this." "Yes, you did. You chose it when you posted about celebrating freedom from me. When you took off your ring. When you let another man put his arm around you. when you picked wine over a decade of partnership. I would do anything to take it back. I know, but you can't. That's how choices work. Do you hate me? No. I feel sorry for you. You had something real and traded it for Instagram likes, from people who disappeared the moment it got hard. What am I supposed to do now? Whatever you want. That was the freedom you wanted, remember? 3 months later, I was in my new apartment downtown. Smaller place, better view, furnished exactly how I wanted. It was a Friday evening. I was making dinner when my phone rang. A date for tomorrow? Coffee? I said yes. I felt lighter than I had in years. Out of curiosity, I checked social media one last time. Diana's page was private. Jessica was still unemployed, posting vague inspirational quotes. Brittany's engagement was already showing cracks in her posts. Rachel was posting about her custody battle, asking for donations to her legal fund. Sarah's page had one post from 2 months ago, a photo of a small apartment in a clearly cheaper area. The caption read, "Starting over. Learning who I am without the noise. Some lessons cost more than others." Comments were disabled. I closed my phone and looked at the calendar on my fridge. Today's date was circled. It would have been our 11th anniversary. Instead, it was the anniversary of the day I chose self-respect over settling. Best decision I ever made. The doorbell rang. My date was here. I opened the door and moved forward. I didn't look back.